Yeah, which is kind of a mid-range dream, right? Like lots of creatures, lots of life gain, just sort of keeping you alive. He's also got a birthing pod, 3 birthing pods, so he's going to be able to do some shenanigans with that as well.
So Brandon led on Ponder, has a turn 2 Delver, which I think is probably going to flip. Cedric, turn 1 Avacyn's Pilgrim. Yeah, I think we're gonna see that Delver flip, and we've got
we have a birthing pod coming down. This is pretty ideal time to cast.
Oh.
No, it's a Blade Splicer.
Pretty nice turn 2.
It seems fine. Yeah, and as predicted.
Yeah, flips off of a Vapor Snag, and Brandon, a student of the Paulo Vitor Dama Rosa school of lands in front.
Yeah. What do you think about that?
It's very old school.
I think it's annoying.
I
can't ever see their creatures back there. I'm always like, what's going on?
What's over there is a glare. So in with the Insectile Aberration and more threats in the form of Geist of Saint Traft from Brendan.
Yeah, it looks like Brandon's content to just start building out his board and creating a bunch of threats. He's going to be able to use that Vapor Snag later. Probably just going to hit the goal.
Yeah, I imagine.
Yeah. So we're going to see if Cedric has a decision here about, depending on if he hits his land drop, if he wants to use his Pilgrim or not. Assuming that the Golem's not going to be there by the time Brandon's going to be attacking, he has the option of double blocking.
Right.
All right. He does have his 3rd land though, so that's going to open up a few more options for him.
So.
All right. So Thalia.
Thalia, yeah.
And he just passes the turn back. So he is going to leave up his Pilgrim. He's not going to use that mana. That way he can double block the Geist if the Golem bites it.
And Thalia is a first strike, so that does a good job of holding off the Geist of Saint Traft as well.
Yeah, fantastic job. Also, it makes that that Vapor Snag a little bit worse.
Yeah.
I see timely reinforcements in Brandon's hand, along with a Dungeon Geist.
Yeah, that's a card that was pretty popular for a while, then seems to have fallen off.
Yeah, I think it was most popular when it was locking down a Titan.
Yeah, exactly.
And since Titans aren't, they're around still, but they're not quite as in favor as they were at the time. He just contended to just pass the turn back.
Yeah, so see the Thalia holds off the Geist, but Insectile Aberration does some work.
Brandon seems like he's just going to be patient here and just keep bashing with the Aberration until Cedric does something. I mean,
yeah, I think that's a fair plan. Like he's fine with that.
Yeah, the onus is definitely on Cedric here. I mean, he does have attacks. There's things he can do here, but he has to be very wary of getting hit by that Geist. Even as it sits, though, Brandon can just chip away at Cedric's life total with the Aberration, and then when it's lethal, he can just throw the Geist.
Yeah, throw the Geist away. Yeah, because the Angel will get in for 4. So I mean, technically, he knocks Cedric to 7. Or within 7 points, and he's got 7 points of flying damage.
Yep. Another thing that you'll see from the Delver players, if they have another Geist, they'll often just be like, well, I'll cash this one in for 4 damage and just replay my second.
Yeah, it's pretty much like a sorcery speed char kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, hey, pay 3, get 4 damage out of it. That's it.
All right. Now that's a little bit of action.
Yeah,
for Cedric here. Yeah, the Gavany Township's going to be able to give Cedric something to do, and maybe even just straight up create a clock that he can attempt to race here. But he has to be so aware of that Vapor Snag. He can't just leave one thing back to block. He's going to take an extra 2 damage if he does that.
Yeah, I mean, he could go ahead and try to force the Vapor Snag at this point, just so he can get it out of Brandon's hand. I like that. I think he looks obviously considering swinging with the Golem, and he does. So just the Golem.
I think Brandon's just going to take it here.
Yeah, Brandon's at a healthy 20.
Yeah, all right, and we see a Geist Honored Monk come down. Now he plays it right into Mana Leak, but we know that Brandon doesn't actually have one in his hand.
Yeah, he's got Snapcaster in hand, but only a Ponder available in the yard. So
this is going to be a big stabilization play for Cedric. It's going to allow him to attack the next turn. And it's also going to allow him to use that Gavany, we call it Gavin Verhey Township.
Yeah.
and it's going to be used to put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, to put 6 or 7 extra power on the table.
Yeah, and flying.
Some of it's flying as well.
Some of it's flying. He's
Yeah.
now got a blocker for. He's got chump blockers for any angels and delver, flying delvers.
Yep.
That.
All right, Brandon decided to vapor snag one of the tokens.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting.
One of the spirit tokens. So.
Trying to make sure he can get in with the
Yeah,
flyers.
it's like we were talking. He wants that clock to be there, but I mean, this table is this board state's going to turn back on Brandon pretty quickly. Like, he had a consistent clock, but he doesn't now. Like, now Cedric can just race in.
Yeah, I mean, his options here, he can Snapcaster Vapor Snag the other blocker if he wants, but I don't think that's good, and he doesn't either. He's going to go ahead and just let the Delver get chumped there. So
Cedric insta-blocks.
Yeah.
There was no thought there.
And
so Cedric he's got a lot of power on the board, and he's facing down
one lone blocker and
potentially a Restoration Angel, maybe a
Snapcaster Vapor Snag.
Yes,
is actually what Brandon
something
has.
like that.
Yeah. So Cedric pondering his options.
Pondering.
Yeah, well, without the actual card pond. I know. Yeah, I saw you like looking over like.
I feel like I'm in there with Rich Hagan or something. The puns are flying already.
Cedric is brainstorming for what he could possibly do. He's
That's tomorrow.
Trying to preordain what Brandon could be doing next.
That's
turn.
tomorrow.
Is this all?
Yeah, that's all tomorrow.
I mean, should I really go deep and be like, Cedric trying to skeletal scry what Brandon is trying to
Wow. All right. Deep is one way to put that.
Yeah, that was just way off. So, looks like Cedric's going to...
What is Cedric doing?
Looks like he's trying to get in here. Golem's already in the red zone. Geist-honored Monk appears to be joining the Golem. And the 1/1 Blade Splicer...
So Cedric's working out the math here, right?
Yeah.
Because he's sitting at 13. He knows that he could very likely be at a virtual 12 just from the Vapor Snag.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's aware that
Right.
play exists. And so he needs to make sure that he doesn't die to the crackback. If that is the case, and he didn't have any creatures to block with, then it would be 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 damage. So this is a close one here. It looks like he's just going to activate the township.
What's the 11th? I see the. You're counting what Brandon's able to do, right?
Yeah.
So 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 on the Vapor Snag.
10,
You're saying if
and
he has
then-
an additional Vapor Snag?
Yeah, well, I'm saying because of the Snapcaster Mage. It
Oh,
gives
if
him two
if
extra
he
power.
Snapcasters here. Okay, no,
Yeah,
I see what you're saying.
like I think that's what Cedric is trying to
Attacking
consider.
Snapcaster.
So he's going to make sure he leaves some guys back here.
Yeah, that makes sense. No, I see.
Yeah. So Cedric does though decide to use his Gavany Township, which is interesting because if he does get Vapor Snagged on the Monk, which he didn't, okay, then he couldn't recast it that turn. But looks like it's going to get one counter. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 5 damage.
Pretty hefty swing. So yeah, Brandon does go ahead and Snapcaster Vapor Snag on the Golem, for those of you who may not have been looking at the screen there. But Geist-honored Monk got in with an additional counter from the Gavany Township, but Brandon now does have Cedric at 12 from the Vapor Snag and has...
We need some more dice here as well. That's awesome. One of our local judges heard me say that as he walked by the booth. He's like, "You need dice?" That's how good the judges are here. It's fantastic.
So there they are. Yeah, they got some more dice. All right, so we've got plenty of blockers.
Now
Brandon has a virtual 6 in the air.
Now you'll note as well that the life totals are 12-12, and Brandon is still sitting on that timely reinforcements.
Yeah.
So he does have some incentive to go a little bit below.
Yeah.
But he doesn't want to go, 6 below. Like any five and less, he gets a little bit of extra value out of the reinforcements.
I believe he also has drawn a second Geist.
Okay, and this he has, and that makes a lot of sense.
So there's that's a strange looking angel, but that's the angel.
Some card game that I've never played.
Is that Versus System? What is it? Is
I
that
don't
Yu-Gi-Oh?
know.
No,
I
I'm
think
just
it's
kidding. It's Pokemon.
Okay, yeah.
I'm joking.
The fact that you know that speaks volumes about
I've
you.
never played it. I've played Versus System. I've not played any other card game but Magic and Versus System.
All right, fair enough.
So there goes. So the Angel gets in, and Geist gets chumped. Well, not chumped. Gets blocked by Thalia, I assume.
Yeah.
And Geist number 2 comes down for Brandon.
All right, so Cedric is in a position where he either needs to win this turn, force the Geist-Honored Monk to block, or he's going to die in the air on the next swing because he has nothing in the air currently. So he is surveying his options here, as if he can get in enough for lethal so if the Snapcaster Mage blocks, Brandon doesn't care. But if he's forced to block with the Geist, then he does. This is probably one of those situations where Cedric is trying to decide if he thinks that Brandon has another
Vapor Snag.
Another Vapor Snag, but I think it's going to end up being one of those situations where he's probably going to decide that even if he does, it doesn't change his line of play here, like he has to make a move. Depends on what he has in his hand, though. He could have a bunch of different things. Second, Gavany Township is not useful here. I mean, it's a land.
Right, but that's about it. Yeah, he can't activate both.
I wouldn't be surprised to see everything come in here.
Going for the Alpha Strike. So he's got...
I mean, he certainly has lethal. He's got 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And what's the other creature I forget? Oh, 11, 12. So he has lethal as it sits.
You're talking about the Pilgrim? Is
the
that
Pilgrim.
The one you forgot?
Yeah, that's the one I forgot.
Okay. So, yeah.
So I think he's just going to jam with everybody here and force some blocks. Yeah, and, get in there.
Are we?
He's doing math. This is what math looks like in Magic the Gathering.
Yeah, it's just a whole lot of moving cards around, rubbing their backs on the table.
It looks like some mystical. You know.
I told you he was skeletal scrying.
Yeah, and the answer has appeared to Cedric, and blocks are going to happen.
So we've got a chunk
So right
block,
now it's 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So this actually is lethal, right?
What,
3, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12?
6, 10.
Is this not 12?
So the Pilgrim is now a 3/3, right?
Yeah, and okay. so is the Blade Splicer.
So that's 3/6.
Oh yeah, right.
It's
not 12.
Yeah.
So that's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
10.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
Okay. And
he's going to have another Pilgrim. Oh,
a bird.
Ooh.
That's actually great.
That's a fantastic one. So. And he still had the Dungeon Geist in his hand to tap it down, and that was it. So anything that could get that bird out of the way, even temporarily, would have been the game.
Which is exactly what happened there. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a nice close game, though. I like that. It was because if Brandon couldn't win that turn, Cedric had him the next turn.
I love games like that because Cedric's deck, which I think normally plays a slightly aggressive, if more mid-range approach, but it's looking to attack its opponent with creatures.
Yeah.
He actually was the control, right?
Yeah.
Like Cedric was on his heels from the very first turn of that game.
Yeah.
And he was trying
Delver,
to not give Brandon an opening to kill him. And then, but the thing that I liked about that game is that there became a point where the tables had to turn, and where Cedric was like, all right, we're moving in. If you have something to deal with this, then you have something to deal with this. And he got to just Alpha Strike, but it turns out that his plan was foiled because Brandon did have a way to get rid of the Birds of Paradise.
Yeah, so looking at Brandon's main deck, it's very similar to the deck that Jerry T won with a few weeks ago.
Okay.
About a little over a month ago, actually. That was the Angel Delver list, the one that plays Restoration.
Was this the one where
Angel,
he won Standard and then almost won Legacy?
Yeah, I'm comparing it a lot to that list. It's very similar. He's I think Jerry had 3 Restoration Angels. Oh, okay. Sorry, getting a little bit of miscommunication here. So, hey guys. So, but they had he had I think 3 Restoration Angel on that list. This one goes up to 4. So basically, Jerry had this list. It evolved that he won with. It evolved the next week to include like Cavern of Souls, and additional Restoration Angel, more gut shots. This Brandon's list looks to be some sort of amalgamation of those two. He doesn't have the Cavern of Souls. He did increase the number of gut shots. He upped to 4 Restoration Angel. Switched Sword of Feast and Famine for Sword of War and Peace. That's something that kind of everybody's done now that Delver has, really taken hold with. And you're seeing a lot more Lingering Souls recently too. Out of a lot of the Esper lists. So
would you consider this list like tuned against Delver? Like against the mirror?
Somewhat, yeah. I mean, you gotta pretty much all the Delver lists are becoming kind of inbred in that way, where like they've got to fight themselves.
Because we have 3 gut shots here
Right,
in the
exactly.
main deck.
And it's great against birds and pilgrims too, which is seeing tons of play. You know, we just saw Cedric there. Now we didn't see any gut shots, I don't think, from Brandon that game, but I imagine they were on the table in his deck.
Yeah,
I don't imagine they were
pulled those
sided out.
Yeah, I see some interesting. There's 4 phantasmal images in Brandon's board, and those are clearly a nod to Geist of St. Traft. It also has other value. I mean, you can do things like phantasmal image your opponent's Huntmaster of the Fells. It's just, it can never transform, so you get whatever it is at the time.
Right.
It's okay.
It's an interesting
I don't think it would come in
interaction
here.
there.
Oh, we're off to the races here already.
Yes,
it looks
we
like
are. So far it's just been lands.
Yeah, a bunch
Cedric,
of lands, but Cedric's got all of his
colors, right.
It looks like he's drawn another Copperline Gorge, so he's just going to have even more of all of his colors.
And there's a Cavern of Souls. And
naming human assumed?
I could assume that, yeah. I mean, we can find out for sure what he named. That we're going to find that out.
I mean, he's got,
for sure.
I think all of his creatures are humans outside of like Restoration
okay,
Angel.
it is human.
It is, okay. Strangler Root Geist isn't, and birds aren't.
And there is a Phantasmal image.
Oh, so he does have an image.
Yeah,
okay.
Interesting.
That seems fine as well.
Maybe because of the Huntmaster thing you mentioned.
I kind of like this as well because he's cloning the Blade Splicer, which who cares if that dies?
Right, exactly. It's actually a great creature to Phantasmal Image because Phantasmal Image goes away. So what? I have the Golem, which is the relevant half of the Blade Splicer.
Now you can take that away at instant speed during combat.
And take away the first strike.
Right, so it's relevant, but all right. And it looks like Brandon's he wants to trade, and
he's
he's going to do exactly what we just said.
So, gut shot on Cedric's Blade Splicer leaves Brandon's Golem with the first strike, Cedric's without it, and Cedric loses his Golem. Brandon basically able to clear Cedric's board with a gut shot and a Phantasmal image.
That is annoying for Cedric.
Yeah, so Cedric goes ahead and goes, all right, Huntmaster of the Fells, I ain't playing around anymore.
No, he windmills it onto the table as well. Now I don't think Cedric's deck has very much removal at all. It's a little bit more sort of passive disruption. It does have 4 Bonfire the Damned though. That could definitely be a card that we could see. It's excellent versus Brandon's deck in general. I mean, if resolved.
Right.
What kind of permission is Brandon running?
I think just the Mana Leaks and a couple Dissipates out of the board, which I don't even think he probably didn't bring them in.
No, but the Mana Leaks might well be in there.
Yeah, I could see that.
Those would come into play for sure. All right, so the Wolf token eats a Vapor Snag. And we go back to Cedric. Draws his card for the turn. It is not a miracle. Or if it was, he decided not to cast it.
He does have a Restoration Angel.
In his hand?
Yeah, in his hand. I did see that earlier.
So. He emphatically swings in for 2 damage points, and we're going to see a Snapcaster Mage come down, target Gut Shot, move to blocks, and we'd assume a Restoration Angel will now come into play. It does.
Trying to restore the Huntmaster, and it does. So.
And it does. Now that means the Snapcaster Mage is going to live, but it's not going to do a whole lot here given the board state. Cedric goes back up to 20. Plays a land, gets another Wolf, has an Angel. That was a pretty big turn for Cedric.
Yeah, and Brandon declines to flashback the Gut Shot.
He just decided to leave it in there. Just didn't want to.
In case for later Snapcaster or something,
That makes sense. I mean, doming Cedric for 1
I don't feel like it's as relevant as that Gut Shot could be later.
Agreed. All right, so attacking with a 3/3 with first strike? Why would he attack into a 3/4 or 2 2/2s?
Well, he does have that Gut Shot in the yard.
So he can just block with Restoration Angel, get Gut Shotted, and he just straight up loses it. I mean, he would need another Snapcaster to do that, but that does make some sense.
Yeah, I mean, if he's trying to get that Angel out of the way, he does have a Vapor Snag in hand though, so I'm not actually.
But that doesn't really get you anywhere.
I don't feel like it's that great of a line. I'm just trying to get the logic here. I'm trying to see his hand. I know he has Vapor Snag. I know it looks like another Timely, which would have really pulled him ahead in that last game too. That now that I was thinking about it in between games.
This is interesting now, actually.
So Timely, Vapor Snag. I don't know that he has another Snapcaster.
I think he might have a Restoration Angel of his own. All right, so we're going to see Dungeon Geist come down, probably tap down the Angel.
Yeah, so still strange that
he does have a Restoration Angel, so that's why he attacked. He plays Restoration Angel, he blinks his Snapcaster Mage, he flashes back Gut Shot, first strike damage goes on, and then he gets to kill the Angel. Now, as it stands, the Angel is on lockdown thanks to the Dungeon Geist. Pay 5, this is probably Geist Honored Monk.
Yeah. Cedric adds
There it
Geist
is.
Honored Monk to the table.
Can you imagine Restoration Angeling a Geist Honored Monk? It's a pretty big game. I don't think there's enough tokens in the room to cover that.
Yeah.
Cedric currently doesn't have any attacks, though.
No, he's like you said earlier. I think he may be the control deck here in this game too.
Yeah.
Although it's as far as control plays go, it's actually kind of gone both ways here.
It has. Now, I don't think that Golem can get in this time because the Geist Honored Monk is a 6/6.
That's pretty big.
Yeah.
Pretty big game.
Yeah. Now, the Dungeon Geist can, though. There's no reasonable blocks currently for that, and Cedric is tapped out, so, it can eat a spirit token, or, Cedric can be patient and try to, see what he can do about recasting that Geist Honored Monk and get enough spirit tokens to just block the thing. But I expect just to see the Dungeon Geist attack here.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think Brandon's going to want to keep that Huntmaster from flipping.
Look, it says human for us.
Hey, look at that.
So this is going to be, I'm curious to see if Cedric takes this or not. Because if he does, then that means he's probably got some type of a plan to get more spirits on board so that he can actually kill it. It looks like he did. He did, so not chump blocking means that it's probably the case. All right, so we're going to Vapor Snag the Wolf again. And he's going to do it on his turn.
Right, to keep the Huntmaster from flipping.
For what you mentioned, right.
So Restoration Angel does not untap.
Cedric eagerly draws. He wants to hit that bonfire.
Yeah, that would be a miracle.
It would be a blowout.
That card is ridiculous.
That card's insane, yeah. When we were doing coverage at the Pro Tour, it was block.
Yeah.
And everybody was playing bonfire, and it was like there was always some point in the game where no matter what had happened previous to that,
top deck bonfire.
It was like, bonfire wins it. Yeah.
Blank the entire game.
It was. We called it bonfire o'clock. I see. Okay, so there's going to be a blade splicer come down, and this is just sort of testing the waters, I think. It's going to resolve because I did see another Restoration Angel in Cedric's hand, so which is consistent with what we were thinking about
making
more
spirits,
tokens. Yeah. He really does need all 4 of them as well because of gut shot and or Vapor Snag. He can't do it that way. He knows he's not going to block next turn, so he's going to send him in. I'm assuming that the Geist Honored Monk is also going to come in.
Looks like it. Yeah, looks like Monk and 2 spirits.
The Monk is now a 7/7. It's got Vigilance.
That is a huge Monk. Cedric Phillips, a very well-known Cloud Goat Ranger aficionado, playing the...
He did have a season where that was his thing.
I mean, Geist Honored Monk's pretty much the same thing.
All right, so we're going to see a chump block from the Phantasmal Image here. I think I like that better than taking 7.
Yeah, I like
he did
that
take
too.
2 though, so I think Brandon's actually at 16 here.
There it is. All right, so Brandon goes ahead, gets in with Dungeon Geists yet again.
I see I believe a Fiend Hunter in Brandon's hand. Yeah, that's a card that.
A Fiend? Is that in his list?
I don't know. Why don't we check?
It must not have been Fiend Hunter. It's probably.
Then
it could be timely.
Then it's timely. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say I would been surprised to see a Fiend Hunter.
I would also. You can do some shenanigans with it, but I don't think it makes the cut in standard.
Yeah. And looks like Vapor Snag one of your spirits.
I don't think
Cedric
Cedric's too bummed about that.
No, I think he's fine, especially if he actually does have that Restoration Angel that we suspect he has.
But then it's a weird spot because what he's going to do is the plan would be to put 3 tokens in front of the Dungeon Guys, but that opens him up to having 1 token either.
Restoration Angel stays tapped, by the way.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay,
yeah, good eye. Yeah, you saw that right away.
It's like, just in case they don't catch it. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I'm not going to slip one by the Pasco apparently. Judge Joey. Yeah, no, I'm just saying. So the plan though for Cedric is to put 3 spirit tokens in front of the Dungeon Guys.
Yeah.
But that opens him up to getting gut shotted or vapor snagged for one of them, in which case he loses both of the other 2 for no value.
Kind of.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
Like he might just not even go for that plan now. because it's such a risk. All right, so this Birds of Paradise is going to represent a chump block, so which is, I think, it's going to free up his spirits to attack. He's going to be playing Restoration Angel on Brandon's turn.
So Cedric looks to be getting in with Geist Honored Monk, Blade Splicer, Golem, and a Spirit. So we've got, how big is that monk? Is it at 8/8 now or 7/7 again?
I think it's still 7/7
because he lost a guy, got a guy.
And then he got a guy, right.
Yeah.
So if he sends in the Blade Splicer, it's going to get eaten, or excuse me, the Huntmaster, that's going to get eaten by the Golem. But then that allows him to get in for 3, 7, that's 10, 11, 12 damage potentially.
Cedric looks like still making some decisions here.
I think Cedric's actually just telling him how he would block. He's like, you're going to block here.
Doing some acrobatics there between the Huntmaster and the Blade Splicer, doing some flips and then landing right back where they were.
Yeah. I don't know if he's, clicked OK here or not.
Yeah, it's a lot of movement of the cards. No clear declaration of attackers, I think, at this point. But my guess is that he's sticking with this. So it's just Golem, Spirit, and Geist Honored Monk.
This is funny. This is an interesting duel of the Restoration Angels.
Yeah,
because I think
one.
Cedric might want to play his on his turn now, because he can for sure resolve it that way.
Yeah. So here comes Restoration Angel from Brandon. Looks like he's going to blink the Snapcaster, which I didn't see what he gave flashback, but I'm
probably
it was the gut shot.
The gut shot's the only thing he can actually cast.
Yeah, because he's tapped out. Yeah.
So I guess he just take out the Spirit token.
And so he could take out the Spirit. He could also decide to just take out the bird if he wants. Obviously not attacking, but
that makes sense.
Future chump blocker.
Yeah, that makes some sense too. I think the Spirit probably makes a little bit more sense. It depends on if he thinks he can race him. He has got Cedric all the way down to 9 here. He's going to be able to get in for 6 in the air.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a feeling. All right, so he looks like Restoration Angel is going to block Cedric's Golem. At least that's what the initial decision here. He's trying to count up how big that monk is. He's going to take that hit from that monk.
Take 8 damage.
Wow.
If he does, though, that puts him at 8, which is 1 less than what Cedric's at.
Now, what?
And then he can play Timely Reinforcements and gain 6 back and put a slew of chump blockers on the ground. So I think that's what his plan is here, is just to take the 8. And I'm curious to see if Cedric wants to try to resolve his Angel now while he for sure can.
Yeah.
Or if he would rather have the surprise element of waiting till Brandon's turn. Resolving it seems important.
Yeah.
He is going to go ahead and do it right now.
I'm with that. Yeah, I think that's...
And the Geist Honored Monk is going to get blinked. We're going to get more tokens.
So that Geist Honored Monk just became a 9/9. Is that? Or I'm sorry, a 10/10, right?
Yeah. Now, and that makes sense. Okay, and so the gut shot is going to kill one of the tokens, but Cedric still has a Birds of Paradise and an untapped Spirit token to block things in the air with.
Yeah. So now Brandon is at 6 from that gut shot.
Cedric gives a little fist bump there.
Yeah. I think this is kind of all going according to Cedric's plan.
I mean, he's in a pretty good spot, but Brandon looks like he's going to be able to resolve
Timely Reinforcements.
A Timely, which is going to kind of reset back to where we were before. But that Geist Honored Monk is now lethal, and Cedric is definitely in a position where he can just start attacking with everything and get in a bunch of damage. Not literally everything, but he can represent lethal damage here.
Yeah. So
the next turn.
We know Brennan has Timely, and that's what we're going to see here. So that's going to put him up to 12, and he's going to get some 3 dudes seriously on the board. Spectral Procession, another card that Cedric Phillips knows all about.
It's funny because since I've met him, I haven't seen him play decks like that.
Yeah.
Like I think he's widened his play range significantly. I mean, he's played red and green decks every time I've seen him.
Yeah.
Like in some, I mean, I have seen him play mono white, but I've seen him played in limited as well, not mono, but like white-based strategies, and it's kind of a pleasure to watch. All right, so if he bonfires here, which he's not,
Yeah, did not.
then the game would just be over.
Brandon declines to attack here with anybody.
Yeah, 'cause-
it just seems reasonable.
Yeah, Cedric has a huge board state now. And Cedric's just trying to flesh out what he's going to be able to attack with. You know, he's going to do the math. He's going to work this thing through. He's very, very good at combat, and he's going to figure out what he can actually get in with reasonably. One card, you know, that Brandon would like to definitely not see on Cedric's side is like Gavany Township.
That could wreck Brandon's math. Well, obviously it would be on board, but that would really wreck the numbers here.
Yeah.
Put it in Cedric's favor. But
all right, so
looks
Cedric
like,
says, well, I'm just going to attack with my monk and say go. Cedric is at 9. He doesn't want to risk getting cracked back on. And we're going to see a flip.
Huntmaster flips.
Yes.
I'm so used to Delver flipping, it's like nothing else ever flips. And Delver flips, it's just Huntmaster the Fells.
So Huntmaster is going to either, what did it kill?
I didn't quite see
Token's the only thing it can actually just kill. Are we still targeting? I know that Brandon took the damage.
Yeah, look at that. So that's a...
Well, now wait a minute, that's a combust.
That's just a combust.
That kills it anyway. So where did the 2 damage go from the Huntmaster? Why didn't it kill a token?
I'm not quite sure. I missed that too.
It hits a creature and a player. But the turn has already been passed back. I think that Brandon should be down a token, unless maybe it was off screen and I just didn't see. I don't know.
Yeah, was there a Snapcaster that was around that is no longer?
I don't see it in the graveyard.
Yeah, that's what throws me off.
There is
too.
something actually underneath
Oh,
that.
it must be it.
That must be the
Dungeon Dice.
Snapcaster then?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
It does look blue.
Yeah.
So, okay, so that's
It
what
also
killed.
knocks Brandon to 10 here, which is relevant.
And now Cedric is on Alpha Strike, you know. Everybody but the birds.
Cedric gets to do the most fun thing in Magic, just turn all your guys sideways.
Yeah.
I like
he
doing
should
this.
just swing with the birds just for fun. Just be like, yeah, this too.
Yeah.
You don't ever know, you don't know. Maybe I have,
Yeah.
mutagenic growth or something.
That's your plan? Bash with the birds?
Bash with the birds. Just to tilt my opponent,
Yeah.
a little bit. What is he doing with that bird?
Play a Silverblade Paladin, pair it with the birds.
Yeah, double
Attack.
strike.
Yeah.
All right, so Brandon here declaring some blocks. He's got, it's a whole mess of stuff happening here. We've got a soldier on a Geist-Honored Monk. We've got Angel on Angel. It looks like Angel and Spirit on Angel.
Uh-huh.
Or is that, I'm sorry, no, those Angels were Cedric's. Yeah,
You
so
lost me.
It was,
No idea.
it was all kind of covering each other up.
There were blocks. Blocks happened. The dust is going to be settling here. And we see a Pilgrim.
So apparently Brandon survived the turn.
And he's just going to scoop it up because Brandon ended up going to 1 after
that's
that
where
massive
he
beating.
was, yeah.
And given that Cedric had way more creatures than Brandon did, he was able to get by him there.
Yeah, timely
Cedric better take
reinforcement's
that
not
little
good
human
enough.
thing out of there. I think Cedric revealed the top card of his library because he was like, is this going to be the bonfire?
He's like, they're in my freaking deck. Where are they? I have 4. Yeah, so definitely exciting interactive Magic right there. A lot of creatures on the board.
Yeah, these mid-range battles are interesting. I think one of the key things that we saw in that match that we're probably going to be seeing throughout the weekend was both of them sitting there with fairly well-developed boards. Some guys on the ground, some guys in the air. This thing's doing that, and they're both holding Restoration Angel.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, are you going to do yours, or
Yeah.
am I going to do mine? And who is going to abuse Restoration Angel the most? I mean,
Right.
when it first came out and people started talking about it for Standard, I remember thinking that Restoration Angel, Blink Snapcaster something, and do that was like, that was pretty big. I was
Yeah.
like, wow, like that's pretty awesome. But now it looks like these decks, like Cedric's, are like, man, Geist-Honored Monk, Blade
Geist-Honored
Splicer, and Huntmaster of the Fells.
Yeah.
They're all just designed to take advantage of Restoration Angel.
Yeah. Restoration Angel is it's one of my favorite cards. I think it's my favorite card out of Avacyn Restored.
Oh,
now
is it really?
Now that we've gotten, now that I've kind of gotten a feel for this set, I don't think I would have said that. I like Tameo a lot too.
Uh-huh.
I think I
it's
like the
blue.
Angel. Yeah, it's a blue Planeswalker. It's Frost Titan's gone, so now we've got Tamiyo instead. Kind of does the same thing.
Yeah.
But a little bit cheaper, a little bit better.
She's way cooler than Jace Memory Adept.
Yeah,
I
like
think
her too.
like,
socks
like
with
her
sandals, totally cool.
Yeah. We both went for flavor only reasons, but yeah.
Right, yeah. So I love Tamiyo, but I think the Angel is a lot of fun to play. A lot of interaction, a lot of options. Snapcaster Mage, Blade Splicer, Geist Honored Monk.
Yep.
Just being able to have a flash blocker as big as a 3/4,
Yes.
flyer,
and instantly changing the combat math as well,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where things look okay. I'm alive. I can do stuff. I'll get in there and put him to close, and then all of a sudden, boom! They've got 3 extra power coming at you, and it can do even small edges like Vapor Snag.
Right.
Right. Like this Snapcaster Vapor Snag is such a different board state than Snapcaster.
Mm-hmm.
Than just like having a Snapcaster Mage.
Right.
It's a huge swing, and people have to, I think that when we get to the later part of the day, we're going to be seeing the top tables, and I think that the people at the top tables, one consistent thread among them are going to be people that always respect Restoration Angel.
Yeah.
The people that are like,
Yeah,
get
whatever.
in there,
Oh.
and then it's like, oh, you had it, and all of a sudden, not only are they getting their guy killed, they're getting killed on the crackback as well.
Right.
So, I live here,
Yeah.
so I know a lot of the players here. So I was kind of wandering around before we got in the booth, just going, hey, what are you playing? What's going on?
Right.
A lot of mid-range.
Yeah, Esper midrange seems to be a popular choice. We saw it last week. Several players playing it and doing well with it. I'm not a fan, but I just tend to shy away from mid-range kind of style decks. I'd rather just kind of play something more Delver-oriented, where you're like, okay, I want to be leaner and meaner and faster, or I want to go the other way and say, all right, I'm going to have a bigger end game, rather than be like, hey, I'm going to sit here on the fence and try to do both roles and hope that I have the tools to be the role that I need to be in every situation. So Delver already as a deck is known for being very good at that. It's aggro control. But I think the Esper mid-range lists are very interesting.
Yeah, I normally side with you when it comes to that. I actually prefer the Delver style list, the aggressive but with disruption type. You and I were just playing a little Magic while we were waiting, and I was playing my Rug Delver list for Modern. I like that kind of a deck that can apply a good amount of pressure but disrupt. But I have to say that this current standard meta game seems pretty well suited to these decks. The traditional Delver decks have made actual control decks not very viable. They have a tough matchup, and so you don't see them. Remember Blue-Black Control?
Yeah, I do remember that.
I used to play that. That's not around anymore. Grixis Control, you don't see that very often. Right? These decks just they're just not here for the most part. And what that means is that if you're one step slower than the most aggressive decks, you can usually beat them. And on top of it, man, you just bury people in cards.
Yeah, I think
every card that these guys are playing creates multiple cards, and then you play Restoration Angel to create multiples of those cards. We're seeing stuff here where it's like, I'm looking at this list, and let's just take a look at a few of the cards that Cedric's playing now. He's playing Avacyn's Pilgrim and Birds of Paradise.
Yeah.
These are for obvious reasons.
Classic ramp kind of, acceleration.
Then as we go, we've got Blade Splicer, that's a 2-for-1. We've got Borderland Ranger, that's a 2-for-1. We've got Fiend Hunter, that's a 2-for-1. You get a creature and a removal spell out of it. Geist Honored Monk is a 3-for-1.
Yeah.
Huntmaster of the Fells is at least a 2-for-1 when you play it. Restoration Angel,
usually
it will enable all of these to do their 2-for-1 again.
Again, right.
Strangleroot Geist is definitely a 2-for-1.
Yeah.
It's 2 creatures in 1.
Undying, right.
Zealous Conscripts is also a 2-for-1 because you not only get a 3/3 haste,
but you get whatever they.
You get the super threaten. That's 2 cards in 1, and then Thalia is a I wouldn't call it a 2-for-1, but it's a solid disruption spell that has a good place in the meta.
The whole crew, yeah.
Everything he's doing is getting multiple cards, and then some of the Restoration Angel can be a 3-for-1 because you get an angel, you get the thing that you blink, and you get the effect of the thing that you blink.
Right. It's ridiculous.
Mid-range. I think there's 2 different types. This one is clearly a bury them in card style, right? I think one of the other ones, and what you and I are talking about that we don't want to do, is I'm not trying to be the mid-range deck in a format that has a wide variety of decks. There's a control deck, a combo deck, an aggro deck, like a true aggro deck, a mono red floating around. Like, you don't want to be the guy floating around in the middle being like, well, if they play this, I have this card.
Yeah.
And if they play this, I have this card. And if, and then it's like, if you don't draw those, or if their deck just performs better than yours, you're playing kitchen finks versus combo decks, like, oops.
Yeah.
Right? You're playing, these weird like sweepers against decks that don't have any permanents, and you're playing like, cards that hurt you, damage yourself to get an advantage against mono red, and it's just like you're kind of floating around in the middle. And I agree with you. Like, I have no interest in that kind of thing.
I think though you make a good point where like yeah, exactly. But you make a good point where these are kind of a different iteration of the classic mid-range deck in that they can bury you in card advantage here.
Yeah.
But one thing I wanted to point out is that I think going towards this mid-range style opens it up for control. They're worse against the control decks. And you mentioned Grixis. Actually, Christopher Morgan top-8'd last week with Grixis control.
So some people are
in a format where the Esper mid-range kind of debuted, like right. So like, hey, these mid-range decks show up, and now Grixis control maybe wouldn't have won those matches. I don't know how often Christopher played against Esper mid-range, but what if those Esper mid-range decks had been Delver instead of Esper, like traditional blue-white Delver?
Yeah.
Maybe Christopher would have lost those matches. But I mean, he played Grixis control to 5th place last week in Detroit, and
interesting. Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense because I think that people tend to. They say, I don't want to play this control deck because it's not good right now. But now what we've seen is this progression of the Delver deck from being really very aggressive with some like disruption to now there's this like Esper mid-range, which is like, we don't need Delvers anymore.
Right.
It kind of evolved into this weird mid-rangey deck, and it might just be ripe for the picking. I mean, this might, like, the people that did decide to play control, they might be in a very good spot. Look what we just saw, 2 mid-range decks kind of,
that's exactly what it looked
cards
like
against each
until
other.
one of them was dead. That was
like, and that's what happened. I mean, we saw Cedric just get more cards.
Right.
Like if you just took a snapshot of the battlefield at any given state, that was a pretty good indicator of who was winning.
Yeah.
Like, I had more cards than you. Like, and I don't even mean battlefield of like who has what. It's just like card versus
My stuff's
5
all
cards.
across the board,
Right.
off the screen. My Snapcaster's hiding so that we can't see it die to Huntmaster.
Exactly.
It's over off screen.
Yeah. So I think that's something that we're going to be keeping a close eye on if a control deck can come in and kind of swoop in on these mid-range decks. Even then, though, these mid-range decks make so many cards.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of control decks are in the business of 1-for-1. You play a threat, I Doomblade your threat.
Well, it's usually 1-for-1s until they can get their big guys.
They're 7 for
giant,
1 or
yeah, they're
whatever.
like giant, like sweeper or something online.
A sweeper, which
right.
I was going to bring that up too.
Right.
Did you see the board states we had? If Cedric had top deck Bonfire at any point in either of the games that we watched, he would have just annihilated
that would have been
his
the game.
opponent.
That would have been it. Right. There was he didn't need a miracle, but that would have. That would have been a.
So one of the things that I want to keep an eye out for if we do see a bunch of these mid-range decks throughout the day are trump cards. You're
like
doing
Bonfire.
Like Bonfire, I think is one. Terminus could be one. I don't know if we will see it in these decks, but the cards that reset the board or that have such a huge one-sided effect, because right now we're talking about grindy, right? I mean, we're talking about all those cards that I just listed from Cedric's list are just like grindy,
yeah, like
build,
incremental advantage.
And if you have something that can just outright go over the top of your opponent, I think those are going to be key in the mirrors.
Now, we were talking about sweepers. You mentioned Terminus. We just found out that Mutilate is in M13, right?
Yes.
Officially spoiled by Mike Flores on Top Decks on Thursday. We can talk, I think we're going to talk a bit about M13 this weekend in between, but I just wanted to bring up one point, is that it appears that Day of Judgment is not going to be reprinted. I believe it's not in the... there's people on the MTG Salvation forums doing the number crunch, and they've got like everything, and they've figured out that there's no room. I don't know how they do it either.
Yeah.
But I just take them at their word.
The Oracle.
Yeah. So yeah, I take them at their word, but basically it appears that Day of Judgment will not be reprinted.
Okay.
Instead, we have Mutilate, so it's interesting to see the colors that are getting sweepers, and white does have sweepers in the form of Terminus, but we'll only have Day of Judgment until October, and maybe it's reprinted, maybe another white sweeper is reprinted in Return to Ravnica.
But that's such a huge difference, right? Like, so the color thing is, like, the Mutilate thing is, that's a different deck, a different idea, like, different thing, right?
You're not going to play Mutilate in your Esper control.
Right.
Or if you are, it's not going to be very
But if we
effective.
take Day of Judgment versus Terminus, those cards are very, very different.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, the key thing, of course, just being the casting cost. You know, there's a lot of control decks that run cards like Day of Judgment or previously Wrath of God, and, you know, their game plan is to turn 4. Like, I want, like,
sometimes they
mana
need
drop, turn 4, I need the Day of Judgment.
Exactly. Sometimes even turn 3. Sometimes the whole thing was with a control deck is like, all right, I need to go turn 1, you know, whatever, turn 2, Everflowing Chalice or Mind Stone, some sort of signet, so that on turn 3 I can Wrath.
Yeah.
Because I need to clear whatever it is my opponent's been doing while I've been playing these artifacts. And
now, I don't know about you, but, like, as of now, I think those days are over. Like, Day of Judgment against the decks that we just saw does, like, nothing.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's not very impressive.
No, like, it would be sweet.
It's like kind of like timely reinforcements, where like it has some sort of effect temporarily, but
it's really not. Like, timely reinforcements in the match that we just saw was very unimpressive.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I wonder if Brandon would have been better off just making like a bunch of normal blocks to not go below 9. Like, I don't think he got a huge gain out of that. And I don't think the Day of Judgment, like, in the games that we watched, it would have been amazing.
Yeah.
But Cedric knows that Brandon's not playing.
Yeah.
Right, and that's the key. If Cedric thought even for a chance that his opponent could have it, he wouldn't have played the same way, where he's just like dumping everything he has on the table. And it feels like, you know, when you're playing against a deck that's playing Wrath, your number one goal is to be able to commit enough stuff to the board so that you can pressure them and force them to Wrath. Then have a recovery play. Right. I mean, you've played a lot of like blue-white control decks.
Absolutely.
You know you hate it when they're like guy, and you're like Wrath you, and then they're like guy, and you're like, you know, you're like digging, and you know, because one thing about when you sweep the board, especially with 4 and 6 mana sorceries, is that you're often tapped out, and your opponent gets to be the first one to start committing stuff back. And counter spells don't do anything for that short period of time. It's one of those situations, but it feels like decks like Cedric's, they don't have a hard time recovering at all.
Right. It's the creatures have gotten so good. All right. So here, like I said, you go, all right, turn 1 to maybe turn 3 Wrath, right? And then your opponent goes, okay, starts recovering from Wrath, and then you're like, all right, I need the 1-for-1 until I can Wrath again, or get like my big guy, my Planeswalker, or my huge, you know, whatever game-winning Cruel Ultimatum or something, you know, like something that's going to win you the game. You're basically just trying to live so you can hit your land drops and do something ridiculous. Now, though, you're like, okay, so Wrath, that guy comes back, right? That guy comes back. You know, these guys that have Undying, and then they're like,
bigger now.
You're like, all your guys just got better, and now you add, and it's just like, I need a Wrath I need my Wrath to have like rebound now, you know, just to be able to compete.
Yeah.
To be able to be like,
your Wrath needs Undying.
My Wrath needs Undying, right? I mean, I guess that's a rebound, right?
I like rebound.
You know,
Yeah, that
rebound
makes good
Wrath.
sense.
That's what we need.
Yeah.
Or you have something like Terminus, where, you know, it really costs too much for its effect if it didn't have that miracle.
Yes.
You really need to.
Yeah, that was traditionally costed at 5.
Yeah. At this point, though, it's almost like they just need to print a Wrath that does like a 4-mana Terminus that just does, because the creatures have gotten so much better to be able to compete with these kind of creatures.
Yeah, I mean, if they want to have like a true board sweeper, that's what needs to happen. But I mean,
I don't think they want that.
I don't think either. I don't think so either. And the players are smart, right? They know that too, and they're like, look, this card just doesn't get it done, so we're not going to do it. You know, I mean, and looking at Cedric's list again, 3 Birthing Pod. Now, I think he took them out. Like, I don't think
he
didn't
really
see them.
needed them.
Yeah, but 3 Birthing Pod, like that means that you Wrath, and even if let's say you Terminus your opponent, right? You're like Terminus, and he has an empty board state and a Birthing Pod, like any creature that he draws is now going to be a threat. Like you're now on a clock.
Right.
And so he plays Birds of Paradise, right? And He cashes it in for a Stranglergeist.
Right.
He attacks you for 2. He says go. On his next turn, he can cash in Stranglergeist. He can get like a Blade Splicer.
Right.
Attack you for 3 that turn. Like you've now taken 5 off of a Birds of Paradise. And he also has 3, 6, 7 power on the board. Again, he could have gone Birds of Paradise lands, like drawn nothing else, and you're facing down 7 power, and you've taken 5 haste damage.
Yeah.
Nice Wrath, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So, again, I think that these control decks are going to have to find different ways to interact with these cards because there's not that much exiling happening. We don't have like a Path to Exile or something like that where you can just be like Undying, haha.
Right.
None of that stuff's happening. And I think that these decks, personally, Cedric's type of deck, and also I think the Esper mid-range deck puts too much pressure on a control deck to have too many different answers. If one Wrath effect is all that you need, plus some support removal, that works fine. But if you need to have a Wrath effect, and then another Wrath effect on the rebound, and you also have an answer for Birthing Pod, forget it.
It's an uphill battle.
Very much so.
But we'll see what happens. We know they're out there, and I think it's cool that, like I said, Chris did well last week with Grixis control. And, we've seen Esper control lists winning in the past few weeks. It's just, I think it's a matter of, thank God I drew the answer at the right time. You know what I mean? Like, I did have the Wrath, and he didn't recover as quick, and I happened to have the tools to fight, or, I Wrathed and then went Sun Titan Phantasmal Image into, something else and went, okay, so you recovered with your Birds of Paradise and something, I've got 2 6/6s and something else, like, some other, something that got back with a Sun Titan. So, creatures have gotten better across the board. They're good for the control decks too.
Sure.
Like the creatures that the control decks choose to play. So I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean, any self-respecting control deck wouldn't play more than 5 creatures?
Well, I mean, it depends.
Now we
got
have
like Snapcaster,
more.
which is kind of like a speed bump and a spell.
Truth.
Than a creature, but it is a creature. So, and then you got things like Sun Titan and Grave Titan.
Yep.
The Titans are big, obviously, but we're going to lose them in October too. So it's going to be interesting to see how things change in the fall. But we still got a few months of M13 standard to look forward to, where we're going to have a lot of overlap. We're going to see, Mana Leak is going to be around for a little while longer for the control decks to play.
Are you sad? Are you okay?
I mean, I was really excited that it came back, so I can understand, all right, it's going to go away, but maybe one day it'll come back again. I never expected it to come back the first time.
I can tell. He's sad. Once we're not on camera, big hug coming. Yeah. You want it right now? You okay? Oh, get in here. No, we'll get Mana Leak. I don't think Mana Leak is going to make any appearances
anytime
ever again.
You don't think ever? I mean,
I would have
thought that. I would have said the same thing about Lightning Bolt. I would have said the same thing about Mana Leak.
That's true. Now, I just get this feeling like they're not super happy with how Mana Leak
You've been talking to
plays.
Zach Hill too much.
Yeah, well, I do get a chance because I live out here to talk to a lot of the guys in R&D, and my former podcast partner Ryan Spain, he works down there now. Now, they can't really tell us anything, right? There's this like secret veiled wall around everything that we're not allowed to hear. But you can kind of pick up little nuances about, they're like, yeah, Mana Leak, and you're like, maybe you don't like it. I don't know, But one of the things that I've learned about how things work in R&D is that there's a lot of discussion about everything. Like there's arguments, there's meetings, there's hallway discussions. Like I tend to think of them as being more solitary than they are. There's very much a back and forth of discussions, and then they kind of come together and say, this is what we're going to do.
Yeah.